Intel, why? Intel, just why? That's a question that's been running through our minds more often than ever over the past few months. And it really shouldn't anymore, because the answer is almost always because Ryzen. Ryzen came in like a gigantic steel ball built purely for the destruction of Intel's market share, and Intel had to counter in the only way it could, by taking its Coffee Lake chips out of the oven before they were nice and crispy. Intel launched its Coffee Lake chips along with the Z370 chipset, and only the Z370 chipset, which makes absolutely no sense. It's an expensive motherboard chipset because it's the only one that allows for CPU overclocking on Coffee Lake. But what's that? Only half of the desktop Coffee Lake chips on sale right now are unlocked for overclocking? Wait! But that means even if you bought a locked chip, you'd still have to pony up a stupid amount of cash for a chipset that you won't be able to fully utilize. Preposterous! What's even more ridiculous is that that's been the case for almost 7 months now. Why, Intel? Why? But now that's a question we'll have to tackle a little later. Because today is finally the day, my dudes. Today marks the official launch of the more budget-oriented B360 and others like the H310 and whatever other SKUs are out there. So Coffee Lake parts, the budget motherboards. So MSI recently sent us their B360M Mortar Titanium, and Wootware sent us a Core i5-8400 to play around with so that we could bring you some information on the new motherboards that are coming out that are just way too late to the party. So until the release of these new boards, buying a non-overclockable Coffee Lake chip was about as silly as releasing 2 April Fool's trolling videos in one day. I know you guys didn't like it, but I really had fun, and that's all that matters, is my enjoyment. But now that we finally have more appropriate chipsets for these processors, the i3-8100, the i5-8400, and the i7-8700, is all this about to change? Well, let's find out. First, let's go over a few specs. Now that we have a lower end, cheaper board to work with, the 8400 becomes a surprisingly compelling CPU. Not that it wasn't before, but before you could only pair it with a very expensive motherboard. And it doesn't matter how budget the CPU is, it's not compelling because of the price you have to pay to slot it right into the socket. So the 8400 sports 6 cores, no extra threads, 9 megabytes of L3 cache, and a base and boost clock of 2.8 and 4 gigahertz respectively, and comes in at just under $180. It's easily one of the best value chips in the Coffee Lake lineup. And when paired with the likes of an equally capable B360 board, we may just have a budget match made in Team Blue heaven. Speaking of a capable board, MSI's B360M Mortar Titanium seems to be pretty capable, if I do have to say so myself. Some would even say more than capable. It sports 2 PCI Express 3.0 by 16 slots, which supports 2-way crossfire, as well as 2 PCI Express by 1 slots, 2 Turbo M.2 slots with support for Intel Optane, 4 SATA 6 ports, 4 DIMM slots with support for up to 2666 megahertz memory, running in dual channel configuration, and this is all in a micro ATX form factor. And then as far as I/O, we've got a PS2 combo port, 2 USB 3.1 Gen 2 ports, 1 Type A, another Type C, 2 USB 2.0 ports, and it has your display needs more than covered with 1 display port, 1 HDMI port, and even 1 DVI-D connector. You don't see that every day. Even if the Intel UHD 630 is like absolute garbage now when you compare it to the 2400G. We did a video about mining on the 2400D a few days ago on the MSI B350, and it's just like, why? Like, it's great that MSI includes this and all of the manufacturers include the display outs. I mean, I guess for a display purpose, but you're not using it for gaming. I don't like it. I'm just complaining now. And then of course the motherboard has your basic LAN ports, HD auto connectors, an optical SPDIF port, and on the features for the front, the board boasts a few notable highlights, including Intel Turbo USB 3.1 Gen 2, DDR4 boost with steel armor shielded DIMM slots, just so when you're wiggling around, nothing snaps, audio boost, a steel armor PCI Express slot, and MSI extended PWM and enhanced circuit design, which MSI states ensures even high-end processors to run in full speed. So the board also features a host of BIOS settings for those who want to fiddle around with every aspect of the system, barring core overclocking, of course, because this is a locked processor on a non-overclocking board, and this isn't like when back in the Skylake days you could do it on the, yeah, you can't. It's not happening with these. So setting memory speeds to the Mac 2666 megahertz was a breeze, and everything just kind of worked. And when I say max, obviously it's not super max. It's just like, this is what we definitely support up to. You can overclock above that, but we just decided to keep it at what the board was capable of, because with Intel chips, you don't need much higher than that anyways. That being said though, we do have a few complaints. So first, it's 2018 and we have more USB devices and peripherals than ever thanks to the dongle life that's happening. So only having 2 USB 3 and 2 USB 2 ports on the rear I/O is bordering on caveman-esque. Like, I'm feeling Neanderthalic here. And while we're at it, where do you come off, MSI? Only 4 SATA 6 ports? Are we animals? Everyone you know needs at least 6 SATA ports on your motherboard. It is literally unusable. Just kidding. While we personally would have preferred a few more USB and SATA ports, it's a minor annoyance at worst. But anyway, that's the baby stuff. As we all know, the most important thing with any piece of hardware is how good it looks, and luckily the Immortor Titanium B360M is quite the looker. Cue the fancy B-roll. The white PCB, the stylish design, the beefy heatsinks, and those silver shielded slots just work so well together. Sure, every other component of your build will need to be meticulously picked out to match the color scheme going on here, otherwise you'll ruin it, but man, would it be worth it? I mean, MSI has their titanium cards, it's not too hard to get silver RAM. You could absolutely color coordinate a nice, dope silver case with this. There's just something about the board's aesthetic design that gets me all giddy inside. But as much as I'd like to continue to gush about just how good this thing looks, we have to move on to a less important topic, performance. But before that, there's a bit of an elephant in the room we need to address. Because Intel took so friggin' long to launch these more budget-friendly boards, speculation and theories surrounding them popped up everywhere like used GPUs currently on the second-hand market because crypto is dying. And there was one in particular that really grabbed our attention. Quite a few tech enthusiasts suspected that certain Coffee Lake chips, like the 8400, have no chance of running at the max clock speeds indicated on their box when installed in anything other than a Z370 board. The reasoning behind this is a little convoluted, but it largely comes down to the budget boards not having the same VRM or VRM cooling performance as seen on the Z370 board, and thus wouldn't be able to push the chips to their max boost clocks. There's also talk that certain BIOS features on some Z370 boards would also push the chips further than they'd get on cheaper boards. These theories seem plausible enough to warrant some testing, and since we were going to compare performance numbers between the B360M Immortor Titanium and a higher end Z370 anyway, we figured why the heck not, so let's jump right into it. Beyond just pitting the B360 against the Z370, we ran benchmarks on the Z370 without any features like multi-core enhancement turned on, and then again with it off, and here is what we found. In Cinebench R15, our 8400 and the B360 board produced the lowest results out of the three with a multi-threaded score of 896 and a single core score of 168. Curiously, when plopped into the Z370 board with enhancements turned off, the chip returned the highest results, even higher than when said enhancement features were left on. Moving on to CPU-Z's built-in benchmarks, we saw a similar story, though this time the B360 came out on top when it came to the multi-threaded test. In 7-zip, the overall win went to the enhanced Z370, while the B360 took the last place again. And then in Geekbench 4's CPU test, the results were a mixed bag, with the enhanced Z370 taking the win in the multi-threaded test, while the non-enhanced Z370 came out on top in the single core department. But in benchmarks like W Prime and a test render in Blender using the Fishy Cat render, the results were too insignificant to really mention. In fact, literally all of the benchmarks we ran, regardless of board or enhancements, produced almost identical results. At least, that is to say, close enough to not even be perceptible by the user in any real world scenario. The 8400 performed about the same no matter the conditions. Heck, even in 3D Mark's Time Spy, there wasn't even a significant change. Sure, the B360 scored the lowest overall, but not by any meaningful margin. Now sure, there's a chance that lower end B360 boards or something like an H310 could produce notably worse results, but MSI's B360M Immortor Titanium was rock solid. And that's a good thing for anyone thinking of skipping the Z370 chipset and going for a cheaper board if you want an unlocked or a locked processor. Or even if you want an unlocked processor with a cheaper board like this, it'll probably do you well. So you get about the same performance at a significantly better price. Sign me up, Scotty. That is how that reference goes, right? I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. I make up my own references, okay? It seems that this particular B360 board, along with many of its brethren, are fantastic value offerings, something that the Coffee Lake platform has been sorely lacking these past few months. So why the heck weren't they released sooner? I mean, come on, Intel. We're like 2 weeks away from a second generation of Ryzen chips and motherboards, and it took you almost 7 months to get your act together. It's phenomenally hard to believe that Intel didn't have these chipsets ready to go for months now, or maybe even at launch, but decided not to launch them until now. It's a pretty wild accusation, but I mean, it's slightly without merit, but not entirely without merit. You see, Intel likely makes more money from selling the Z370 chipset at a premium to their customers and board makers, and by only having the Z370 available, they're giving said customers and board makers no other choice but to buy those chipsets or be left out of the Coffee Lake party. The fact is that by having all the chipsets available at launch, they'd sell far less Z370 units than they otherwise would have, meaning they'd be making less money. And making less money isn't exactly in Intel's playbook. Of course, there's no way to confirm that this is indeed the case, and it's plausible that Intel didn't have these cheaper chipsets ready to go until now, but let's just say that we're not exactly convinced. It seems much more plausible to us that Intel just wanted to squeeze as much money out of their customers as possible before offering them a decent value proposition, which is why it took forever for us to get off of quad cores. None of this should be taken as a jab at motherboard makers though. While they likely knew and still know more about the entire situation than any of us, there's nothing they could really do about it. All they could do is build good budget boards to pair with our budget Coffee Lake CPUs. And that's definitely the case with MSI's B360M Mortar Titanium. It's a good, solid budget board that allows us to get our cake and eat it too, which is something that we couldn't say about Coffee Lake for the longest time. Now, finally, we have a decent comparison to a Ryzen 5 1600 plus a B350. Now we have the Intel i5 B360 combo. That's like, now those can go head to head. That's kind of been also the difficulty with the tech scene. Before Ryzen launched, it was like everybody's doing Intel builds because there's nothing from AMD. It's FX series. Nobody's building FX. It's just not relevant anymore. And now what we've seen is the pendulum is swifted the other way, and now all of the budget builds are Ryzen. You got Ryzen 3 and Ryzen 5. Those are the budget builds. Why? Because the chips are cheaper, but they're the same price as the Intel chips. Well, when you come to the actual features on the motherboard, the features on the motherboard are less, therefore the cost is lower, therefore the overall build and the system that you can put together is lower as well. And so Intel Coffee Lake is left out only for the high-end performance. The 8700K was really the only CPU that you could talk about as far as like building a computer. Like the 8400 has always been a good chip, but it's never been in the position where it's a good value chip because of the circumstances surrounding the difficulty of actually matching it up with its slot mother. Anyways, I want to say thank you to MSI South Africa for sending the B360M Mortar Titanium over for us to check out. Big thanks to Wootware for sending us the i5 8400. And if you're in South Africa and you're looking to pick up a new Coffee Lake chip, a new Ryzen chip, a new motherboard from MSI, a new graphics card from MSI, anything that you need for your build, you can check out Wootware. Their link will be in the video description. Wootware has phenomenal prices, a great selection, and a world-class customer support staff. And as I've been traveling in the United States, I've missed them so dearly. Like, I've had interactions with tech companies here, and I'm just like, if Wootware was doing this, they would not have treated me this way. They would not have treated anybody this way. How dare you? I don't want to name names, but I've had some particularly difficult customer service experiences here in America, and Wootware has never done that to me, nor has it done it to anybody who's I like. Wootware is just fantastic. And so if you're in South Africa and you're looking to build a new system, you want to build a new rig, you want to get a new monitor, whatever you want to do, check the link in the video description. It's wootware.co.za. You can boot up your PC, everything again in the video description. Also, if you're in the United States, you can use our Amazon affiliate code to pick up any of the aforementioned items, because that'll give us a small kickback that helps to support the channel and all of our endeavors that are going on around here. So if you're in South Africa, it's Wootware, and if it's in America, it's Amazon, and both of those will help keep the channel going. Anyways, smash the like button if you enjoyed this review. Let us know what your thoughts are down in the community Discord, which that's going to be the top link in the video description, or also down in the comments. That was a burp. Let me know what you think of the B360 boards. Let me know what you think of the H310 boards. Let me know what you've seen from other people's reviews. Gamers Nexus, Paul's Hardware, Bitwit, Jace 2 Cents, Linus, whoever's doing reviews on these motherboards. I want to know about it. Let me know down in the Discord or down in the comments. Let's discuss that. Smash the like button. I already said that, but do it 3 times just to make sure. Get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content. And yes, I am still traveling. Yes, same hotel. Just, this is what it is. We're going to keep going. There's reviews that have to come out. Big shout out though to my family who lets me record at all hours of the night. It's 1 a.m. here and they're sleeping in their beds and I'm here in the hotel bathroom trying to get this video done. But then big shout out to the team down in South Africa. Tank, Reese, Rickus, you guys are crushing it, making sure that we can get reviews out on time. Much appreciated. You guys are legends. Anyways, I'm Brett with the UFD Tech channel. Show some love to everybody who's supporting this channel. It's all you guys. I love you guys. I'm rambling because it's 1 a.m. and I'm going to end this review here. See you in the next video. Cheers.